From the shores of beautiful Lake Coeur d'Alene in the heart of North Idaho. Local, regional, national, and international guests discuss their topics on our forum. The North Idaho College Public Forum. With your host and moderator, political scientist, Tony Stewart.
I am most pleased today to welcome you to our program, and the topic for today is a very important one here in the Inland Northwest. We're going to discuss the future of diversity of our workforce in the Inland Northwest. In order to accomplish that goal of discussing that topic, I'm so pleased to welcome to our program two very outstanding people that I've worked with in the past, and they're doing tremendous things for our region. First of all, I would welcome to the program Jonathan Coe, who is the president and the general manager of the Coeur d'Alene Chamber of Commerce. Jonathan, welcome to the program. You have been doing not only a great job in that capacity, but you have helped us with programs that I call Hands Across the Board, and working with the business community also in Spokane. Thanks for taking time to be with us.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And I'm equally very pleased to have Libby Barnes with us. She is the Marketing and Communications Director of the Spokane Area Chamber of Commerce. And Libby, I've had the pleasure of working with you recently too, and you are a remarkable person in bringing this all together and working on something that's so important to the future of our area, and that is the economy and diversity in the workplace. And we'll get into some of the things that you've done. But thank you for coming over from Spokane to our studio to be with us. We're very grateful.
Well, thanks for inviting us, Tony. With Spokane Area Chamber is really glad to partner with you, and this is an important effort.
Thank you. And it's always, I'm so pleased to have our two regular panelists. First of all is Janelle Burke. She is an attorney in the state of Idaho. And next to her is Steve Sheen. He is the Vice President of College Relations at Development North Idaho College. And we shall ask Janelle to commence today's questioning.
My first question will have to do with where are we, and the second part of that question is where are we going? So, Libby, can you describe a little bit about what is the makeup of the diversity in the workforce today in our area? And we go out to a lot of different areas, so if you could sort of generally talk about what is the makeup of the workforce, and then where do we want to go? And then Jonathan on a more specific local level.
Well, Danelle, I think it's fair to say that certainly if you compare the Inland Northwest area to other major metropolitan markets, we do not have as diverse a population as other areas do throughout the United States. But it's also fair to say that when we carefully look at our residents and their backgrounds and ethnicities in the Inland Northwest area, we are fortunate to have a reasonably good representation of a very broad ethnic background of our residents and people in our workplace and our businesses.
And where do you want to go? What do you hope for the future?
Well, I think the future will be at least the success of our businesses and our communities throughout the Inland Northwest is going to depend upon us being able to attract and retain a diverse workforce within our companies, whether they're two-person companies or 2,000-person companies, in order for us to be competitive. It's a global environment now. It's a global marketplace.
Jonathan, what about the more specific little area that we're in?
Well, maybe to take a step back first, the amazing statistic to me is that the estimate is that our economy is going to produce something like 4% more jobs than we're going to have people to fill them over the next decade or two. We're going to need workers, and we have to find them from somewhere. And clearly that means we need every worker. And we need the ability to recruit workers from all ethnic backgrounds, from all parts of the country, hopefully to come here and make our businesses competitive. So as Libby suggests, the challenge is for us to put ourselves in a place where we can compete for those workers, where we can bring them here, put them into our workforce, and help our businesses be successful as a result of that.
And where do we want to go?
We want to go to a position where I think the Inland Northwest is as an attractive place as any, or more attractive than any other place in the country to live and work. And so that a recent graduate of a technical school, because clearly the issue revolves mostly around technical skills, is going to look at Coeur d'Alene, going to look at Spokane and go, boy, I want to go live there. Great place to live, wonderful climate, wonderful environment, and I'm going to feel welcome there, and I'm going to be a part of XYZ company and help make it successful for the years to come.
I was going to say, I think there's another component to it, too, that's important to bring up, and that is we need to be able to keep our young people who grow up here, no matter what the background, ethnicity, culture is. We we need to be able to keep them here and provide opportunities for them to grow, to be in professions or whatever career path that they choose, and help them, be able to be successful here so that they don't feel they need to go to another area where there is a more diverse population.
Thank you. Steve Sheen.
It occurred to me as I was thinking about my first questions that there are two rights that we ought to address on our show. One is the fundamental right of all people to have equal access to a good job, which is part of that broader principle of equality that certainly we believe in. The other one, though, is the right thing for businesses to do to be successful. I think we've talked a little bit about the right thing for businesses to do, at least on the surface, and I'd like to get into that more later. But I wonder if you'd each address for me briefly that other larger fundamental principle of equality that we're talking about here.
Well, they're clearly intertwined at this point. What is right for business is also right in the historical sense of what our country is founded on. And I think all across the country, it's a major issue in the business community today is figuring out how to make businesses accessible to the broad spectrum of the people in our country, in our culture. And it clearly is the right thing to do because it's what our country is founded on, as well as being the right thing to do for the bottom line that is so important, obviously, to the business community.
Libby, your thoughts?
Well, I guess what I would like to add to that is that we in the Chamber and throughout the business community in Spokane have used the word respect. We have talked about it as the word that seems to encompass that broader spectrum of the right thing to do. It really revolves around respect for other people, for oneself, for a community, for a world.
Thank you.
I want to address Libby first. I'm saying something that's been said 1,000 times because of certain things have happened in our region that are attributed to, obviously, hate and hate groups. We all, I think, grieve from time to time about the image in the country that is incorrect. I've been here a long time, and the people here are as good and as kind and as supportive of what you both have articulated already. But we have to respond to that, and it has been a roadblock in doing what you find people are trying to do, is to invite more people here. And as Jonathan's talked about, the workforce expanding, and Libby, you're talking about the global market that our company is involved in. Mm-hmm. I have a quite involved request from you. First of all, Libby, would you share with us this remarkable development recently? I think it's one of the most significant I've seen since I've been in the Northwest, and that is the corporations, the CEOs are coming together to deal with their true beliefs and concerns. And then when you do that, in a minute I'm going to ask our camera to let you show something, or I'll show it, of how we got to the public. But talk about, let's give some credit to the president of Gonzaga University and the CEO of Vista Corporation, but a lot of our viewers may not yet know what's going on.
Most certainly, I'm delighted to share that. The Spokane Area Chamber of Commerce, in partnership with Father Robert Spitzer, the president of Gonzaga University, and Tom Matthews, who is chairman of the board and chief executive officer of Vista Corporation, have formed a group called the CEO Diversity Leadership Group. And I'm really pleased to share with you that it includes over 40 CEOs of corporations, not only in Spokane, the Spokane Valley, but also Coeur d'Alene, and includes Jonathan as president of the Coeur d'Alene Area Chamber of Commerce too. And that group has met and put together a 5-point plan to advance a diverse workforce. Very intentional. And one of the first actions out of that group was a full-page ad in response to the planned Aryan Nation Parade in July.
Let me have our camera pick this up, and you go ahead and talk about it. It was a very powerful ad, and if they can even expand the camera back further, we can even see there's a statement here along with a lot of signatures. Would you just share what that's all about?
Well, the ad, as you can tell by the headline, the right to march does not make the march right, is in itself a very strong statement that says the heads of these companies that are central to the region's economy won't stand for this type of action. And we recognize a free speech right, but we also recognize that it is the wrong message for us to send throughout the world about what this region is really like. And it really calls to action, that we all have a stake in this region's future through the image that is carried by such things as an Aryan Nation parade. And we feel that it's imperative that we make a very strong statement that says, yes, you have the right to march, but it doesn't make it right.
And the list is impressive. CEOs of corporations, presidents of colleges, and all. It's really a unified statement. I have one more question for both of you, and then I'll go back to the panel. In addition to this particular project you're talking about, there's a lot of projects and there's a lot of events. And what I'm really trying to get across with this question is, for those who are considering living in our region, and they look for diversity, and although our population is not as diverse as some urban centers, there's a lot of diverse activities that would make people feel welcome and warm. John, we'll come back to you first. Would you just list some of the things in North Idaho, and then Libby, would you share some things from Spokane? The list is really impressive.
The list is long, and North Idaho has been involved, back to Steve's two rights, because it was the right thing to do. It's the humane thing to do. It's the human thing to do for years. It goes back as far as the Raoul Wallenberg Award that was given to the city for its activities on behalf of human rights. The designation of Coeur d'Alene as a all-American city based in large part on the fact that the Human Rights Campaign was so successful and so adamant here. Lemons to Lemonade, in response to the activities of the Aryans, this community got together and raised money that was pledged based on how long they marched last year, and that raised, I think, $24,000 that was put back into the schools, back into the community to teach tolerance, to teach support for diversity to students in this region. And then from there you can go into a whole list of activities, the powwow that takes place in July, that really are examples of the diversity that is this region, and are examples of the kinds of people who live here and are active in this community.
Thank you very much, Libby.
Well, Tony, Coeur d'Alene has some tremendous programs, both educational and community-based events and activities, and I would add that Spokane also does, and we're pleased. In fact, we're finding new opportunities to work together on some of those, which is really, that partnership that will make a difference as we become stronger and stronger by working together. In the last few years, the Spokane Area Chamber has undertaken quite a number of initiatives, and I'll go back to the workforce diversity area, because I know commonly, in community events we do a lot and a lot together. Besides the CEO Leadership Group for Diversity, we started a program last year called Understanding Multicultural Relations in the Workplace. And it was an 8-month-long program that involved people from all different types of work environments in Spokane, the employed, the underemployed, and the unemployed. And it was a very positive learning and growth experience for everyone involved. And it really was a national model. In addition, the Chamber's had a Workforce Diversity Committee, which is really a partnership with people of color in the community, and that's about 5 years old. It had a job referral program, a job bank program that is getting up and running again with some new funding, and we're going to be finding some very positive results from that. In addition, the Chamber has started a diversity marketing committee, because one of the things we recognize we need to do is market a diverse workforce as a business issue. This is a bottom line issue. In addition to being the respectful, right thing to do, it's going to impact either positively or negatively a company's ability to be competitive. And so we've started that, and we have some great partners in Spokane, and actually we're going to be working again with the Coeur d'Alene Chamber on that. We also have a number of youth programs that are reaching out to underserved youth in the Spokane area, and they're highly successful, and they are growing programs. So we're really pleased with that.
And the 30 minutes go so fast, I go back to the panel, but in addition to what you've mentioned, there's all kinds of events throughout the year that celebrate cultures and variety. And so really we don't have to be apologetic. We just have to send out the message that we have an open welcome mat, and we reject those doctrines that would indicate hate. With that, I'll go back to Janelle.
Jonathan, my question is for you. Sometimes we think about diversity and we think of it only in terms of certain issues. But when you're talking about diversity in the workforce, how do you define that? Perhaps we should have started the program with that and said, what really is diversity in the workplace? What are you including within that very large umbrella?
Well, I think from the business perspective, it's very bottom line driven. It means having a workforce that is productive. And a productive workforce is one that's made up of people who feel accepted, welcomed, a part of a team. And those team players may be coming from a variety of ethnic backgrounds. They may include people who are handicapped, who have physical disabilities that may make them, quote unquote, different from the rest of us. And so the diversity, I think, includes and encompasses all sorts of people, and the question of how to bring them together in a team that's productive and effective.
I think you're talking about old and young as well.
Across the gamut. And one of the interesting things, too, that I think is not often thought about is that diverse workforce needs to reflect also the customer base of the company. If a company's out marketing to a Hispanic community, it's a mistake if they don't have a strong component of Hispanic people in their workforce, because they're going to be able to tailor products and tailor messages that are going to sell those products. It only makes common sense to the business community.
Libby, I want to give you a chance to add what your other 4 steps are.
Oh, okay. Actually, I was going to respond to it a little further there.
Oh, well, please do. Please do.
Well, I was just going to share that recently we had a member of the chamber share with me that in his environmental engineering and architectural company, he seeks to hire people who are unlike himself. Those are people of different ages, different backgrounds and ethnicities, different work experiences, of course, coming with the appropriate skills. But as I talked with him a little bit about that, he said, I never know who my customer is going to be for my services. And if my customer comes from a particular background or culture, I'm ready to go. I have someone already on my team who can bring so much additional value to my company when I'm looking to get that piece of business. And that really, I think, is a tangible example of what Jonathan is talking about. And Tom Matthews, who's, again, the chairman of Avista Corporation, said, when I'm sitting across the table from someone that I'm trying to sell to, whether it be in this area or any other area of the country, they won't look like me. They will not have the same backgrounds. How can I sell to them if I don't have people on my team who are like them? It's a competition, bottom line, economic issue.
Are you going to do it for?
Would you like to do the 4 points? Tell us what
sure.
the other additional 4 steps are going to be, so we'll know what to expect in the future.
Well, I know that the CEO 5-point plan also includes a program, a seminar forum type of program on best practices, because there are companies who are doing some very positive forward thinking, not just current thinking, but forward thinking things in terms of fostering a welcome, positive, productive, diverse workforce. And we think it's important to share that. And so that will be coming up. Also, there's going to be a recruitment support and network program so that as a company looks at moving to Spokane, we can get them connected with the appropriate groups and individuals and leaders within, not just Spokane, the Inland Northwest, who can help them understand what it really is like, so that whatever external image there may be, the reality can be something quite different. We're also working on a trailing spouse program, because we all know within the professions, particularly, certainly in higher education, when you have one professional who is recruited to an area, then it's very important to try to find a very, good position for the spouse who comes also. In many cases, those are people with diverse backgrounds and different cultures. So those are 3 of the 4. And then we're also looking at a training series, and that actually Gonzaga University is taking the lead on. And that, my understanding, is well underway right now, at least in Spokane, and certainly probably going to be open throughout the Inland Northwest region.
Steve Sheen.
You're both chamber professionals. You're going to be more aware of this than I am, but the Fortune 500 notwithstanding, most existing jobs in America and most new jobs that are being created here are located in small to medium-sized companies. Mm-hmm. Companies that may not have a personnel director, mm-hmm. certainly in most cases would not have a recruitment specialist. What resources are there out there, and this is particularly important to us in Idaho and to a certain extent in eastern Washington, other areas that this program serves. What resources does the Chamber provide, or what other resources could you help those business people to access that would help them in the recruitment process of qualified people of diverse backgrounds?
I guess I would start by suggesting that the types of training programs that I just mentioned will be important. It's difficult if there's not a fairly solid culture within a company of understanding and valuing a diverse workforce. It's really difficult to start recruiting. So I think there's a first step there, and those resources, I believe, are available, not only through Gonzaga University. Raymond Reyes is the person who actually is directing that program. But there are others, I believe, probably through the Kootenai County Human Relations Task Force and Spokane Human Relations Commission.
I think you're identifying what is really one of the number one issues for business all over the country. Is how do you help them recruit the qualified workforce that they need? And there are a lot of interesting things going on related to the internet and websites and helping create job posting settings so that people can find a community like Coeur d'Alene or Spokane, and so that businesses can utilize that, can reach out to that much broader market that we need to be able to recruit and attract, because it is terrifically competitive out there, and we're going to have to be able to go after workers wherever they are in order to recruit them so that we can have our businesses be successful here.
Spokane is a good model. And I wonder if you see even more partnerships forming, because again, the small business owner's dilemma is not a great deal of resources at his or her disposal to put to these kinds of problems. Do you see more partnerships forming like the one you've been describing, so that maybe they can go to job fairs, do joint recruiting, a joint website, that sort of an effort?
I would say most definitely. There already are some job fairs, excuse me, in the Spokane area, and I think the outreach is starting now, making sure that we're connecting across the border. In addition, the Chambers has established a diversity marketing committee and it is almost finished putting together its marketing and public relations plan that includes a national image campaign that would be funded by businesses in the Inland Northwest. And it would do such things as to reach out into historically black colleges and universities, to be advertising in national publications such as the NAACP and national equivalent to Indian Country Today and Spanish newspapers and magazines, so that we are really reaching a large market of individuals that we can get that message to.
Thank you.
Another area that affects business, I know I was so impressed with a member of the staff of Hewlett-Packard when they were at a ceremony. They were being very generous to the Human Rights Fund that we have here. And one of the speakers from Hewlett-Packard said that she also was encouraged that a lot of the businesses are becoming sensitive about customer service. And she was speaking of some of the stores in Spokane having products that are very, very helpful and beneficial to people who come from other cultures, from major urban areas, that in the past we've not had. They're just basic products. How are you both seeing that as another way of being friendly to, as you reach out to, and these companies are reaching out to create this global market? People feeling comfortable to have what they need when they're here. And that would be tourists also, as well as people moving here.
You mentioned the resources, Steve, and I think that's one of the issues that Coeur d'Alene as a community, as a smaller community, faces, and we want to, I think, piggyback a lot on what the Spokane Chamber is doing in terms of its diversity recruiting, in terms of its diversity training, and bring that across the border to help to take advantage of the resources they put together. And the same really applies to what you're talking about here, Tony, is the question of making available to businesses on this side of the border, what are the kinds of products, what are the kinds of services that can be created and put into place so that we are creating that welcoming environment and atmosphere for people of color, people from whatever ethnic background, so that they do feel welcome either as a tourist or as a permanent resident in this community.
Tony, I'd like to add, too, there's a very important organization that has been formed right now in Spokane, but with tremendous partnership opportunities across the border, and that is called AHANA. And it is an acronym for African American, Hispanic, Asian, and Native American. And it's a professional organization. And that organization has well over 100 members. And those are businessmen and women from the community of color, many of whom have products and services that are targeted to their ethnicity. And it's certainly going to help us as a region to support an organization like AHANA so that they can make important business connections throughout the inland Northwest, whether their product or service is specifically a product or service that would be suited to a person of color. But the important thing is that we need to foster business development opportunities for members of that organization. And the Spokane Area Chamber, and I'm sure the Coeur d'Alene Area Chamber, are right behind them, helping them. And we are providing all types of resources and networking opportunities for that organization so it will grow and be successful. And really look forward to introducing the Coeur d'Alene Chamber to the similar kinds of opportunities. So I think there's great potential there.
Janelle Berg.
Well, we're limited in time, but I want to start with Jonathan and just a comment on the changing demographics of our region. Obviously, we touched on that just a little bit at the beginning of the show. Things are not going to be the same. How do you see us changing?
Well, clearly we're becoming more diverse in all sorts of ways. Just the sheer population change that's taking place. Kootenai County is now over 100,000 in population. The projections are staggering, to say the least, of what may happen over the next 10 or 15 years in terms of 30 to 40% increase in that population. So I think we will continue to see more diversification, more minorities certainly moving in, a broader population that more and more reflects that of the country as a whole, I think.
A lot of retirees?
Not an unusually large number. Sean Higgins, who is with the Spokesman Review and does a lot of their forecasting, indicates to us that it is not an unusually large number. However, the baby booming generation is going to retire soon, many of us among them, and certainly that will be a factor.
On that note, I have to bring our program to conclusion. Libby Barnes and Jonathan Coe, it's been a pleasure having you here, and I want to end the program with saying what you have done. You have really built that bridge showing where we're going in the 21st century, and it's really bright for the Inland Northwest. And what you've done tonight is laid back into the background those who would not like this, because they're not going to have the kind of world that they want. It's going to be a harmonious and diverse community, and you have had a lot to do with that in the business world. And we thank you for being here. On behalf of the panel, we thank you. It's been a very special program for us, and good luck in your future endeavors. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this program. I know you have. It's exciting to talk about our area and what will happen in the future. I would like to invite you to be with us again next week at the same time when we shall move to another subject. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
North Idaho College Public Forum is the longest-running public television show of its type in North America and is seen in 7 states and 2 Canadian provinces. Each episode is pre-recorded live and is an educational community outreach from North Idaho College. Please join us again at this same time next week for another new edition of North Idaho College Public Forum on this public television station.